Welcome back. We are in the finals of the Dragon Duel North American World Championship Qualifier, where DeAndre Mason, who we saw last round, punch his ticket to Japan with Heroes, is taking on Austin Calling, who is running Necros. After we saw Mason run wild through his last opponent's Necros deck, do you think we might see a repeat this time around?
It's certainly possible. What worked for him before might work for him again.
Looks like Calling has won the roll and decided to go first. Interesting choice. But he probably knows what his opponent is playing at this point. And he starts things off with Necros of Brionac. And then follows it up with Necros Kaleidoscope, sending Herald Arclight to the graveyard to summon the Necros of Unicorn that he had fetched.
Fairly standard first turn play for Necros players, nothing too wild. He's using the Herald of the Arclight's effect to now add a card from his deck to his hand.
And if you notice, there's a little bit of a change in scenery on our tables here. The Tellarknight participation mats have been replaced with the prize mat that you get by making the top cut of your respective Dragon Duel qualifier, or your respective World Championship qualifier, featuring El Shadal and Noyatilis.
Yes, and these particular mats are especially unique because they are Dragon Duel 2015 specifically, so they are different than the main event mats.
2 face-down cards finish things out for Calling, and Mason starts with 4 face-down cards and no monsters in his hand. Opponent, Calling, holding Maxi and Necros of Trishula. No trap cards in Calling's deck, but he does run a full complement of Mystical Space Typhoons with Book of Eclipse, Forbidden Lands. But no regular Book of Moon, just 1 Eclipse, 1 Lance. Reinforcement of the Army is activated over on Calling's side of the field. Picks up Necros of Clausulus, which is discarded. Search out Necros Mirror. Not a whole lot of action early on. Neither player really has much in the way of monsters, and it looks like Calling has declined to attack because he wants to stay, or he wants to keep being the only person with a monster on the field.
Yeah.
Shadow Mist is normal summoned by Mason, and then Mass Change is activated. Maxi is chained to that, which will be Calling a draw, and then Dark Law is summoned, but its effect is currently being negated thanks to Necros of Unicorn.
Yes, Dark Law looks like it can destroy that Unicorn battle, though.
Neos Alias is the search. Haven't really seen a whole lot of Neos Alias in Heroes since Stratos wound up on the Forbidden list. The entire thing that Neos Alias was used for was he's a light, normal warrior on the field to go get with Stratos repeatedly.
Yeah, we haven't seen that in a while.
Also compatible with Gemini Spark, also not appearing in this deck.
That's true. I haven't seen that card in a long time.
Book of Eclipse flips everything face down, and then at the end phase, Dark Law is flipped back face up in his more vulnerable defense position.
Yes. However, Mason does have 4 back rows, so I would expect it can be tough for Calling to destroy that Dark Law.
Yes, and the other thing that is, after it was flipped down and face up, Dark Law is no longer considered summoned from the extra deck.
Ooh.
Fiendish Chain is used here. Mystical Space Typhoon is also played.
I guess they don't realize it's not considered to be from the extra deck, as the Mystical Space Typhoon was not banished.
That could be the case.
Yeah, because if it's not considered to be summoned from the extra deck, that Necros of Unicorn should have no effect on the Masked Hero Dark Law.
Yes, negate the effects of face-up monsters on the field that were special summoned from the extra deck. Turning it face down means it's still a special summon monster, but it is no longer summoned from the extra deck. And where this usually comes up is with Shadow Fusion versus a Book of Moon. So these cards should be getting banished, and Dark Law should be able to take something out of the hand, but nobody realizes it at the moment. Vanity's Emptiness, chained to Necros Mirror. Gonna need a little help to keep Darklaw around.
Oh, Necros of Unicorn attacks and destroys the Dark Law.
Also takes out.
I think Mason has a Solemn Warning face down, though, right?
I believe he does.
Surprised he didn't use it when Colling went to flip summon that Necros of Unicorn.
And they take a quick look at the graveyard, but make no changes. And Colling has a second Max C.
So Mason activates a Hero Lives and pays half of his life points to special summon Elemental Hero Shadow Mist from his main deck. He uses his Shadow Mist effect to add Mask Change to his hand, but not before Colling can discard Max C to draw a card off of Shadow Mist's special summon.
Gets his mass change. Probably doesn't want to use it this turn.
Yeah, I would imagine he wants to preserve the Shadow Mist's effect and use it next turn. If he activates Mask Change this turn to send Shadow Mist to the graveyard and transform it into a mysterious masked hero, he won't be able to search his deck for a card to add to his hand with Shadow Mist since he's already used its effect once.
And Colling will draw a card.
It is, yeah, and Colling will draw a card. It is fairly tempting, though, because if he does that, he will be able to destroy that Necros of Unicorn here and now.
And he does do it and gets another Darklaw.
So he loses out on a couple of cards here, partly because Colin gets to draw one and partly because he doesn't get to search his deck to add one to his hand. But at least Darklaw, with Darklaw and Unicorn, what's Unicorn's attack points?
23.
And he didn't destroy it with Darklaw?
He could be thinking, well, what if he has Necros of Decisive Armor?
That could be.
Main phase 2. Mason plays out the rest of his hand with Neos Alias and a couple face downs.
Well, it's, yeah, I don't know.
Another Senju is summoned. And its effect is activated to fetch. Got Gungnir Trishula Unicorn Gin Releaser in hand. And he gets Valkyries.
Unfortunately for Mason, his Darklaw's effect is currently negated by Necros of Unicorn, so he does not get to use Darklaw's effect to get rid of a card out of Culling's hand.
10 minutes remaining to sign up for the 2016 regional events.
Colling takes a look at his extra deck. It appears that he had taken Unicorn off of his Senju search. Two level 4 monsters are combined. For the XC summon of number 101, the Silent Monarch. Both materials detached from that, targeting Darklaw. The Traptrix Trap Hole Nightmare is activated. The monster was special summoned this turn and activated its effect. So Traptrix Trap Hole Nightmare can both negate that effect and destroy the card.
Wow, that was huge, because now with the Necros of Unicorn off of the field, Darklaw has its effect back.
Darklaw's back, hasn't used it yet. So if Colling goes ahead and searches for a ritual spell right now, Mason gets to take a shot at his hand.
That's right. And
Banishes Necros Mirror and Clausulus, so he's going to do exactly that. Takes a good look at the Necros cycle, as at the bottom of the graveyard, but goes with Necros Kaleidoscope. He's got that other Unicorn in the hand, and there is a fair chance that he's wanting to turn Darklaw back off.
He activates the Kaleidoscope.
Does not activate the effect of Darklaw there.
Oh, sending the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon to his banished zone to summon the Unicorn and Valkyris.
Interesting. I'm kind of surprised that Darklaw's ability was not used there.
Yeah, Mason must have forgotten about it.
Well, Unicorn and Valkyries are on the board now. Each one of them is capable of defeating one of the monsters on Mason's side of the field.
There are 3 back rows to support them. So who knows what's there.
Now, Kaleidoscope in this case will go back to the graveyard because now Unicorn is on the field to keep it there. Unicorn, or Valkyries attacks, and Gungnir is used proactively. Make absolutely certain that Valkyries will not be destroyed.
Is there anything that he couldn't have chained the Gungnir to? That would justify that play?
No, I mean, he couldn't chain it to Forbidden Lance and the damage step, basically. That's the one thing. And indeed, Forbidden Lance has been played to make Neos Alias able to take down Unicorn.
Right.
That's just about it as far as I can see. Mason plays a pair of those lances.
Well, I guess he could have a double Mirror Force. Respond to the first Mirror Force,
both Mirror
chain
Forces.
Gungnir, and then activate a second Mirror Force.
Valkyrie's effect activates, and he tributes away the Gin Releaser that he had drawn. Replace it with an effect failure. A much more useful card in this situation. Being able to block a rank 4 monster, like a number 101 of his own, which we see Mason looking at right now in his extra deck, would be huge.
Yeah.
Goblinberg is summoned. No monsters in hand to activate its effect, of course. Both monsters are summoned, or are combined to create Silent Honor Arc in defense mode. The effect failure that he just drew off Valkyries strikes. And Mason is back where he started. Everything is coming up Calling's path, or Calling's way this time around.
Certainly looks like it. It's going to be tough for Mason to recover here.
That's a monster face down. Valkyries attacks. Destroys the second Goblinberg.
Mason is just holding on here. He doesn't have that many life points left, so direct attack from Valkyries will finish him off.
This is where you kind of wonder why there isn't even one copy of Miracle Fusion. In this case, though, Mass Charge. It's almost good enough. It's almost the same. Picks up Shadow Mist and Mass Change.
Oh.
But these are the exact reasons why heroes were so good. Was you could be down to nothing and just pick up Miracle Fusion, and all of a sudden you have a gargantuan monster on your side of the field.
I mean, that a Miracle Fusion certainly would have been better there. He would have the ability to summon something like the Shining, for example.
Something bigger
which
than
is stronger
Valkyries.
than Valkyries. Here, it doesn't look like he can kill that. He can destroy that Valkyries, right?
I think he can crash Anki into it.
Okay, so
That's about it.
destroy it, but not without his own loss.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, what he would really like is something like the Shining that can just run over it and still be on the field with enough attack points to beat pretty much anything Calling can summon. Instead, he actually goes for Dark Law.
Dark Law in defense. That's his third Dark Law, I believe.
And then uses Shadow Mist effect to add Bubble Man to his hand.
Interesting.
Here comes a Necro's Mirror on Calling's side of the field. He tributes Shurit to summon the Trishula, and Trishula was all it took.
Yep, that's it. Doesn't have enough life points left to pay for Solemn Warning there.
Yeah.
And the Bubble Man in hand made it impossible. So, costly mistake regarding Dark Law in the first game.
Yeah.
Allows Calling to get more searches without pressure than he's entitled to.
Yeah.
And then things just turn Calling's way completely. All the cards come up his way. He gets a second Maxi that draws him into effect failure. And he just has the counter for everything that Mason tries to put up here in the first duel.
Yeah, when you summon a monster like Dark Claw that has the potential to really shut down your opponent's deck, you usually want to expend pretty much all of your resources to protect it. So if you have a card like Solemn Warning down to protect your monster, or a card like Forbidden Lance, or whatever you have down to protect it, more often than not, against a deck like Necros, where it can be so crippling if it remains on the field, it's worth protecting that Dark Claw. That's not always true. You have to always evaluate each circumstance on a case-by-case basis. But more often than not, these cards are included in the deck because of their debilitating effects on other decks. And it's important to respect that, and really protect that monster, knowing that that's what it's going to do for you.
Looks like Mason has gone with basically his same plan as last time, and threw in Exiled Force and both copies of Darkhold.
Seems reasonable to include Darkhold.
And we saw there for a moment that Colin was considering adding Shadow Imprisoning Mirror to his deck, which can really mess up decks based on Shadow Mist.
Yeah, you wouldn't think so initially, because there aren't that many dark monsters affected by it. But even the 3 Shadow Mist and the 2 Summoner Monk, that's enough.
It's particularly brutal if you ever manage to catch a Summoner Monk because of the discard of a spell that you need to play its ability. Or, I mean, even if you just catch Shadow Mist, a lot of times we've seen hero duelists lose because they paid 4,000 life points to get a Shadow Mist that's not going to result.
Especially here,
search.
The Shadow Imprisoning Mirror that Colin uses in his side deck can't really backfire on him, it looks like. He doesn't have any dark monsters.
Nope, other than the Djinn, but that is not a effect that activates, so it doesn't matter.
Right, so that could be a good side deck card here.
Might also go for Royal Decree.
Yeah, again, that's
another possibility.
It certainly seems like a good idea. There's 11 trap cards in Mason's deck. Plus, he's got 19 spells too. Royal Decree can't negate those cards. But I wouldn't say the Royal Decree is irrelevant against quick play spell cards that get set, because of the fact that when you have the Decree up, you know that your opponent can't activate traps, no matter what their back rows are. So it still gives you a sense of security.
Yeah, feel a little safer.
Yeah, so it can help you make the right decision and help guide your plays. So the 11 trap cards are certainly something to consider with Royal Decree, but considering all the other cards your opponent might also set, that the Royal Decree won't negate, but can basically shut down an opponent's bluff if they try to set it as a bluff. That's an additional advantage you can get by using Royal Decree.
And it appeared that Mason has chosen Calling to go first in this one.
It's probably a wise decision.
Sense. And we'll see soon enough if Calling is going to be the one hoisting the trophy at the end of this event, or if Mason has one more duel left in him.
Yes, both of them will be invited to compete in the 2015 World Championship in Japan, but only one of them can be the North American World Championship Qualifier winner.
And what I learned from last year when I went to Rimini is that apparently being that winner gives you bragging rights over your fellow competitor. And it can be pretty brutal sometimes.
Yeah.
So you do want to be the one that wins this match.
I bet. I got second place in the 2009 World Championship Qualifier, or National Tournament, it was called then. But Chris Ferber beat me. He didn't brag about it. He was a nice guy.
You are lucky.
Who knows if one of the other two players who got third and fourth place and went with me, if they had beaten me, would they have bragged about it when I went to Japan?
I don't know. Who else was it?
It was Roy St. Clair and Ryan Newburn.
Maybe if it was a year with Jarrell. Jarrell, I don't think, would let you forget it.
Yeah.
But the other two probably would. Meanwhile, Calling's gone first, starting by discarding Necros Clauselith for Necros Cycle. Necros Cycle is then activated, attributing one Clauselith to summon back the other. Now that's also a monster that has, it basically targets monsters summoned from the extra deck to negate their effects and drain all their attack points, reduce it to 0. So that's why he's doing this, is to give himself the early protection against masked heroes.
So that can be used on either player's turn?
Yes, it's quick effect.
So, yeah, that's actually going to be, could be tough for Mason to get over.
That's part of why you side in all of your monster removal here.
Yeah.
Because whether it's just a Clouseless or a Clouseless that's also stopping you from special summoning in the first place, Dark Hole and Exiled Force can take care of it. We do see in Mason's hand that he does not have any such cards, though. He's got Fiendish Chain, though, which could be useful in the future. And he's just picked up, looks like Mirror Force.
Yeah. Looks like E-Emergency Call, Fiendish Chain, Mirror Force, Bottomless Trap Hole. Elemental Hero Shadow Mist and Elemental Hero Bubble Man. With the 6 cards in his hand. Looks like a pretty good hand to me.
Yeah. It's just the one thing is Clouseless stopping you from doing what you want.
Yeah.
3 cards are set face down. And that's it. Gin Releaser of Rituals flipped face up and attacks for 1,200. Mason takes the damage, and a second set card joins the Djinn. And now Mason draws into Goblinberg. Goblinberg can get you another summon, but it's still going to be an extra deck summon. What it does do, though, is get you Shadow Mist on the field so you can start searching.
He could also make Castel, right? Just return the Clauseless.
I mean, he could try, but it'll just get negated. Shadow Imprisoning Mirror is chained to Shadow Mist. And at least he didn't pay 4,000 for that one. That would have been particularly brutal.
Yeah.
2 are combined. Summon Castel. And both materials are detached. Targeting Clouseless. And calling points out. I'll use my Clouseless ability. And now both materials are in the graveyard.
Okay, so yeah, that didn't work out.
Clouseless is used again, and this time it allows the Djinn to try to destroy Castel. But Mirror Force is activated. Calling's done for the turn.
12 spots remaining in the last regional of the evening. 12 spots remaining in the last regional for this
Draws
weekend.
Neos
If you wish
Alias.
to play in that tournament, I need you to come up, sign up for that tournament at this time.
How do you get over that Clauseless?
You have to draw one of your cards.
Well,
That's part of why Clauseless is one of the best cards to...
Couldn't he activate Fiendish Chain to just negate its effect?
Oh, yeah, no, he could do that.
Yeah. Was
That's
that down when he summoned the
We are
Castel?
still taking
Had that
sign-ups
already
for
been down?
Winamax, Beta Winamax,
Good question.
and one last starter deck tournament. I have room for 8 additional players.
Ragna Zero, of course, has enough attack points to clear it.
But not when it goes down to 0.
I have 10
Yeah, the
spots
problem
remaining
is
in that
you
regional.
can't actually... Like, if you activate it preemptively, Clauseless gets chained and stays for a turn. But if you just try to attack, then it gets activated in the damage step because it's an effect that changes attack and defense. And in this case, it doesn't matter because there's a Mystical Space Typhoon for that Fiendish Chain. Benju of the Thousand Hands is summoned next. Able to activate successfully and search out a ritual monster.
What does Ragna Zero do to Necro's decks?
Just went ahead and searched a ritual spell with it instead.
Oh yeah, that's not a Manju, so
That's
you can't do that.
Not a Manju. You have to go get another Clauseless, which he doesn't have in his deck. I don't think he does. He's only got 2 Clauseless. One's in the graveyard, and then is brought back to be tributed for the other. But he just straight up Senjus for a Kaleidoscope and keeps on going. Clauseless goes ahead and drops the Ragna Zero down to 0, and it is defeated by the Senju. E-Emergency Call comes down next. And it appears we have a slight stoppage in play. Get you an update on what that is. Oh, no, looks like they have returned.
Possible that the Sengju situation was noticed.
Yes, it does appear that they have noticed the Senju. They noticed it right after that face-down card was flipped. So that's an interesting question. How much of an advantage is it to know that your opponent's face-down was a bluff? That is what the judges are now tasked with figuring out. Looks like they're going to try to fix this one by putting the kaleidoscope back in the deck. And could be putting the kaleidoscope back in the deck and placing it with a monster.
Yes, that it appears they're attempting to rewind the game state and fix the damage that occurred.
That's a tough one to call because you have the additional information of the face down emergency call.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like that's what they're doing.
Looks like it's not going to change what happened overall, but it might have changed what he searched with the Senju. Like he could have gotten the Valkyris, for example, instead of the Gungnir.
That's possible.
Elemental Hero Bubble Man is the search for emergency call.
All right, so he summons it to the field, activates Mask Change, and he is transforming Elemental Hero Bubble Man to Masked Hero Acid. And Acid's effect activates to destroy all of the cards in Calling's back row, and that is his Shadow Imprisoning Mirror.
And Calling seems to be okay with that. He does not...
Yeah, because he still has Clausulus.
Yeah, he does not negate it with Clausulus, is the interesting thing.
But yeah, he could have stopped that also.
Senju is defeated by Castel, and Acid doesn't even attack.
Well, Acid couldn't attack because Clausulus would have dropped it to 0. Well, it could have, but not beneficially.
Now, that's a Manju. That could certainly get a spell.
Yes.
And now he goes and gets the kaleidoscope that he wanted before. Kaleidoscope is activated, sending Herald of the Arclight to the graveyard, and that summons Necros of Unicorn. Search for the Arclight is Necros of Trishula. And he checks his extra deck once again now that he has 2 level 4s on the field. Silent Honor Arc did him well last time around.
Seems good.
And he does it again this time. This time it's going to get hit by a Bottomless Trap Hole.
He can protect it, though, and it is stronger than Castel.
Both are true.
Yeah. Or a Clausulus can just make monsters attack 0, as he appears to be doing. Taking Acid's attack 0 and destroying that with number 101. So it looks like Calling has this duel locked up, and since he won the first duel, it looks like he has this match locked up. But you never know. This is Yu-Gi-Oh! With the right sequence of draws, Mason might be able to turn it back around.
As long as you have enough life points left, for example, you could play a Hero Lives. It's just he really needs to get rid of Clausulus.
Yeah.
It's been there the whole game, and it's caused nothing but trouble.
Yeah, I've never seen a Clausulus that wasn't summoned by a Djinn deal that much damage. Like, have that much of an impact. It didn't do any actual damage, but...
Mason draws, and whatever he draws doesn't help him. He offers the handshake, and it looks like Austin Calling is going to be your North American Dragon Duel champion. First place in this tournament. He'll be going to Japan along with DeAndre Mason to represent North America in the Dragon Duel World Championship in Kyoto, Japan. in about a
Yes.
month, a bit more than a month.
Congratulations to both of them. It's a fantastic experience. Everyone who's ever been to Worlds to compete has told me, and I myself have experienced, it's a great time. It's
will
an
never forget it.
unforgettable experience, once in a lifetime for most people,
Yep.
if they're lucky.
Well, I mean, the previous Dragon Duel champion, Oliver Tamaiko, from a couple years ago, he won the Dragon Duel, went to Japan, or went to Las Vegas, won the Dragon Duel World Championship, and got to come back last year to Rimini to compete in the all-ages group because he had grown out of the Dragon Duel program.
That's a nice incentive to win the World Championship.
Yep.
Get to come back next year.
All right, we're going to have the top 32 of the main event World Championship qualifier coming up next. But while we wait for that to begin, we've got another Yu-Gi-Oh episode for you.
I believe we actually have the live duel before the top 32, right?
Oh, is it before the top 32? Oh, wow.
So,
you might get an episode of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, we're going to see.
And then a long-lost, never before seen
Yes.
episode of Yu-Gi-Oh!
We're going to see Marek duel against Pegasus.
Don't
Stay
want to
tuned.
miss that.